Hi there, I'm Jonas from Switzerland, and I have the honor to introduce myself and share a little bit from my journey that led me to this point where I am right now. So, I grew up in a Christian family, and we were part of a church that is part of the Protestant church, um, and it's a Reformed church. In Switzerland, these churches are kind of interwoven with the state, and it's a local church. It was not a very small church, but also not a very big church with few hundred members. Um, but that is my beginning. And in my childhood, I all the time went with my parents to this church, and it was very cool because we had a big youth work with over 100 young people and a lot of youth camps. And this was actually my life. Like Sunday morning, it didn't give me much, and it didn't um, give me some encounters or something like that with God. But what it gave me was connection to other people, connection to young people, and I was very integrated in that whole social network, and that was amazing. So that was my youth time and my young adult time. I grew up in that church, in the youth work with all the camps, and then from a member of the camps, I went to become a leader for the camps, one of many leaders in the camps, and that was very cool for me. It was really a good environment. We had healthy structures and healthy relationships, and we had a lot of freedom and a lot of joy and much of adventure in those camps and what we were doing. Um, but then came a point where I realized that I wanted more from God, and that was like a decade ago, long time ago. Now I'm 29, and to that point, I was living a very normal life with the normal struggles, the normal challenges. But one challenge in particular I had was I was addicted to pornography, and I think it was not very bad. It was for sure daily consumption, but it messed me up in my internal, and that was the one part of my life that I was realizing that it should change. And the other part was that I really started to realize that I don't experience God very much. I didn't know God. I have no clue about heaven or something like that. And I didn't even see some miracles in our church. It was not a very miracle focused or oriented service. It was though a very cool service, a very good service, but not, I think, not very big part of these services were led by the Holy Spirit, I think. From my perspectives, at least, I didn't experience that for myself. I heard from some speakers or from some books, but it wasn't for me. So that was my main problem at the moment. That for the one I had addiction, and for the other part I just lived a very normal life like anyone else and had the normal struggles like anyone else. And then came a point where I started to think deeper about God, and I started to cry out to God internally and said like, help me, Lord, help me to, I want to encounter you. I want to get to know you. And it was also that point that like I started to cultivate hunger in me. Maybe a little hunger in me, but still more hunger than before. And it was in 2016. We went to a very big youth camp with several thousand young people from a lot of Christian denominations. And in that youth camp, it was the time before that youth camp, my cry to God was very loud and very intensive, and I thought like I need to experience that God. I want to experience that God. And in that youth camp, I had a friend that advised me, hey, yeah, and she knew a little bit about of my situation, and she advised me to go to the ministry service to get prayer for me. And I went to do that. It needed a little bit of courage, but I did it. And in that talk, it was with two other men. I haven't spoken about my pornography addiction or something about that. I just shared a little bit from my journey and what I wanted. And what I can remember back then is I shared, I want just I want just for one a confirmation that what I'm living now is good for my path to move forward. Like, or should I change something? And for the other, I wanted more from God. And then we talked, and then they prayed. And after that prayer, my life was changed. I was changed. My heart was changed. I had a love for myself, for the other people, for the whole world around me that I haven't experienced before. And that was the one thing that really changed. And the other thing was that I was instantly free from pornography addiction. And that was huge for me, really huge. And of course, as you can imagine, the whole journey of changing my habits came afterwards. And that went for me like for several years. I had to retrain my mind and retrain my habits and my where I watch and where my thoughts and feelings goes. But I was instantly free. And that was the starting point in the year change 2016 to 2017, where it really started with my journey with God. Back then, I hadn't even an idea of anything about the supernatural things. But I started with reading the whole Bible from cover to cover. I wanted that to do several times, but it just, I fell asleep. It was boring. I didn't made it to the end. But then I continued with that and I did it in a quarter year. It was quite huge for me. And I started to listen to worship music, and really I started to take my Christian life very serious, because before it was just like a joyous life with a lot of adventures in the youth camps, but not with a deep connection to a God, or not even a relationship or anything like that. But from that point on, I really started to dedicate myself. And then it needed for me 3 more years that I start to listen through several teachings and Christian speakers like Bethel or Andrew Womack or Todd White, and then came Dan Mohler, and I listened to a lot of people. Um, Also, one of the guys, Blake Healy, he's a seer. He started also planting a seed for hunger for me, for more. That was also very great. He had 3 books, and I read them from cover to cover. Actually, with my wife back then, we started together to read to each other these books, and it was amazing. But we didn't really experience that much. But it was just a seed for starting my hunger. And then in 2020, I met a guy called Reinhard Hirtler. He's an Austrian teacher. He's a teacher, prophet, and he had a school for the supernatural and the prophetic. And we had the opportunity to register for that, and my wife and I, and we went there in 2023, in the summer of 2023. We went to this school, and it was very exciting for us. And before that school, a friend of mine told me about a guy called Justin Paul Abraham. And he just told me about him, and afterwards he told me he wanted to check how do I react. But he just mentioned him, and to be honest, I forgot about him. And I went to this school, And in this school, I learned a lot of things, like how to prophesy, how to move in a very low level of the supernatural, but still a further level than I was used to. And I met a lot of people. And I called I had a conversation with Reinhard, and I asked him like, give me something more, give me something deeper than you that you can't tell the others. It's like a little bit of a private thing that is like too much for the others, because I realized back then all the preachers, they know stuff that the others don't know, and they won't tell it because of a lot of reasons. But it was all the time a little bit frustrating when a speaker started the sentence like with, oh yeah, and then this, no, I can't go in this direction. And I thought like, why not, or like the question, can I challenge you? And I said internally, yes, of course, please challenge me. And then he or she said like, maybe another time, I don't feel like that. And I just felt like I wanted to ask Reinhard, give me something that you can't give the others. And then he told me, okay, Jonas, let's hear me. God told me we have to focus on quantum physics in the future. And for me, it was a very new construct. I didn't really know what quantum physics was, but I had a little bit clue that it was something that I like. It is higher, and of course it's higher than my current understanding. But I knew I had a book in my mind that I wanted to read about that topic, and I did. And that was one part of that was one key moment in my journey. And the other key moment was that guy that I mentioned, Justin Paul Abraham. And after the school, I remembered about Justin, and I started to listen to him. And it blew me away. It was exactly what I was searching and was looking for. Because in the years before, I started to develop a hunger for being at the forefront of what's going on in the prophetic and what's God doing in the earth. I asked him like, show me what you are doing in the earth right now and show me my part in that. Bring me to the front, bring me to the forefront, bring me to the battlefield, so-called, that I really get to experience what is happening right now and how can I bring my part into that. So I started to read the book of Justin Paul Abraham, Beyond Human, and this was mind-blowing. And this started in fall 23. And then in winter, I decided to join Global Sons Ministry from Nancy Cohn, because I stumbled about her name in the book of Justin Paul Abraham, Beyond Human. And I realized that she is a great speaker and I want to know more about her. And I saw that she had a ministry, and I registered for her ministry. And I couldn't hear, I listened so much. I started to listen all day long to her messages. I couldn't stop with hearing to her. It was, for me, I was so hungry to learn more about that and to know more about these things, because everything was new for me. And then I also started to join an ascension group. And for me also the concept of ascension was very new. But I started to have some experiences, I saw some things, I felt some things, but not a very a deep encounter in that case. And that was in the beginning of 24. And then on one moment, in the network of Nancy Cohen, in one Ascension group, they invited a woman called Catherine Wang. And she came and she was so amazing. And I also started to join her ministry. And then I had two, like Global Sons and H2Com University. It's the name from Catherine Wang's ministry back then. And I joined also her. And I had two ministries that I was listening to and that I was engaging. And I was just so hungry to get more practical things, more experiences, more knowledge, more wisdom, more of everything that I could possibly get. And then came another key point. My brother is 6 years younger. My brother sent me an interview with Catherine Wang and a dude. And this dude was Nelson. So that was the first time that I met Nelson online. But for me, it was only interesting because of Catherine Wang. I didn't know anything about Nelson. And it bothered me also, didn't not much. I was only focused on her. I listened to that, and that was very cool. And then I joined also the Hebrew sisters. They walked sometimes with Nancy Cohen. It's Darla Fields and Jonas Sanders. Their ministry is called Hebrew Sisters. They teach a lot about the kingdom of Yahweh and about the Hebraic culture and Hebraic stuff. And my wife and I, we went also to a conference to them, and we flew to the UK. And they walked before also with Christopher Paul Carter. He's also amazing. He wrote some books also about, one book is maybe known, it's called The Cosmic Shift. It's about the cosmic shift between ages. And I read all his books. Then I encountered Micah Turnbow. He's also an American seer. And as you can see, my year 2024 was packed of wisdom and knowledge and a lot of hearing, and I felt like this is it. And all the time when I joined a new ministry or I met a new speaker, I thought like, this is it. Now I finally arrived. And then I met also Don Joseph and Ian Clayton and listened a little bit through their stuff. And it was just like, for me, it was very cool, but I had two main issues. The one was, it was too less practical. I'm a carpenter, and for me, it needs to be practical. That you can apply it to normal life and that you can see fruit. That was the one frustration that I had. And the other was that the main leaders of those ministries weren't available personally, or only for very huge amounts of money that I wasn't willing to pay for only like 45 minutes with someone. But these were the two main points that I had a little bit of a struggle. But so my journey went on, and I knew at the end of the year 24, I wanted to go to Hawaii with the Hebrew sisters to an intensive week about energy work and subconscious work and Hebrew stuff. I wanted to get like an immersive experience. I wanted to immerse myself. And before I flew, I remembered about Nelson and I started to listen to him. And it was very challenging for me at the beginning, because still back then I still was a Christian and identified with this whole movement, even though transitioned a little bit into the mystical side of Christianity, but still Christian nonetheless. But then I started to listen to Nelson stuff, and I thought about this Cave of Mystery and started to listen to the YouTube things, and it was very cool. It was very great, but it wasn't, I think it was just a little bit like 2-3 months too early. But then it came the end of the year 24, 25. and I went to Hawaii, and it was amazing. And I knew also before I went to Hawaii, I want to join the healer's course from Nelson. And so I registered and I went to Hawaii, and I came back and I was totally flashed and very motivated to go forward. And then this healer course came from Nelson, and I started to listen to that. And I think that was the starting point of um, find my home, find my family. I really started to realize this is it. This is it, what I searched, what I was looking for. This community is so amazing. And I think in the middle of that course, I really started to dedicate myself to Cave of Mystery, what Nelson is doing, because I realized he's available. That was huge for me. And I can apply all the things, and I start to see fruit of that. And it was like the first point of my whole journey of searching and wondering, even to the frustration of my wife, that I start something new and thought this is it, and then a couple of months later, maybe this is it, and a new preacher came. And I'm very thankful for my wife that she was so patient with me. But after that healer's course, I knew I'm home. I had found my family. I was here where I'm meant to be. And then I remembered I asked God to put me on the forefront, to put me on the battlefield. And I thought like, oh man, I'm really on the forefront. I'm really stepping into my role that I didn't know then, and still I'm figuring out. But my role maybe as a forerunner, and a forerunner is on the forefront, and it was just amazing for me. And so now I'm really I'm so happy to found this community, to met some new people, amazing people, really cool connections and relationships. And I start to learn so many things that I was hungry for, even that I don't know I was hungry for these things. But now I start to realize this was what I was looking for. And I'm experiencing more. I start to see a little bit things. I start to hear a little things. And I start to understand a lot of things and encounter wisdom a lot of times. And it's just for me, it's such a blessing for my life and for my journey. And I love to think about that for this video, to think where God led me through and what He brought into my life for which period of time. And I'm so motivated like never before. I'm hungry like never before. I'm passionate like never before. And for me, it's quite a transitioning phase also, to come out of Christianity and move into mysticism and sonship, to find out what it really means to have heavenly parents, to be really a son of them, to have heaven backing my journey, and to have heaven's resources available to my life. And it's for me the really starting point to my journey, where I think like now I can really start without going in circles, and doing things that are not very effective or fruitful for my journey. So I'm full of joy that I'm now here, and that I really can start to learn and to develop a spiritual life. And it's so interesting to see all these cultures, all these different places where God is in it. And I love it. I love it. So I can highly encourage all of the people that will see this video to seek after God, to ask Him like, show me my place in creation where I need to be. Show me my part, what I need to bring into this day and age, and show me the people that are meant to walk with me. That will for sure make a huge difference in your life. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in a week, maybe in a decade. I don't know. But for me, it took nearly a decade where I really started to take my path serious to the point where I am now, that I really can start to work on myself. And so yeah, that's part of my journey, of my spiritual journey, of my mystical journey, of my journey coming out of Christianity into mysticism. And I hope you could take something out of that and could be inspired. And I wish you all the best. Bye bye.